Well, good morning, everyone. It is January 25th, 2022, and I'm going to talk about Gary, Indiana. If you Google this on YouTube, you'll find titles such as the most miserable city in America, the ghettos in Gary, the worst city in the country, etc., etc., etc. I'm here to tell you how it's changing and how I'm helping it, and a group of people are helping it, okay? And it's improving. So before I get exactly into the story, I'm going to go give a big thank you to Michael Zuber, One Rental at a Time. Back in 2018, I think it was in December 2018, I was interviewed on his channel, and I think he called it something like how small savings add up. Okay, because at that time I had maybe 5 or 6 rental units. All right, so Mike and I, we became sort of friends. We would text occasionally and email. And I texted him one day and I said something to the effect, I said I was considering a turnkey company. And I threw out a name that I heard of. And I had never used turnkey. I had invested in my local area, I had invested out of state on the Burr strategy. I had never used a turnkey company. And he suggested another individual who owned a turnkey company that he had met. He said he really liked him. He said he would send an introductory email. That person is, are you ready? Drum roll. Drum roll. Tom Olson from the Olson Group, located in Gary, Indiana. Tom's right-hand man is Jared Stokemeister. Okay, so I was put in touch with Tom. I still correspond with Tom. We text occasionally. We've talked on the phone, emailed. Same for Jared. We text, we talk, we email, etc., etc. I have met Jared in person. As of yet, I have not met Tom. Hopefully I can bring Tom and Jared on this channel and they can talk about what they're doing in Gary. So anyway, with that connection, I decided to purchase one house just outside of Gary in Lake Station, Indiana. Okay, so I purchased that house and then I traveled there. I flew to Chicago, drove over to Gary. I had a buddy of mine with me. And we met with Jared. We saw the house that I had already bought. I liked it. We drove around, looked at other houses in Gary. We drove through rough areas. We drove through better areas, et cetera, et cetera. So subsequently, I bought a total of 5, 6, or 7 houses through the Olson Group. I forget the exact number without double checking my notes. Okay, these houses had been renovated and rehabbed, and they looked very good. All right, my visit to Gary, I saw many houses in disarray, houses falling down. The downtown part of Gary was in decay. There's documentaries on YouTube you can find of Gary, Indiana, a city in decay, where the downtown area has a big, majestic auditorium, like an opera type place, a beautiful building, had trees growing through it, et cetera, and it was in decay. Crime going back 10, 15, 20 years ago was terrible. A little history from my knowledge, I'm not an expert on Gary, but a little history is 100 years ago, Gary was a hustling, bustling city. It had a steel factory there. Automobiles were being produced, steel factory. And you had a lot of people there. There's pictures online of their downtown area with hundreds of people, thousands of people perhaps. And the population, don't hold me to this number, was 180,000 maybe, thereabouts, 170,000, somewhere in there. And then somewhere along the way, you had a recession, steel industry dropped off, and folks started leaving. They had what was termed, you can Google this, white flight. The whites started leaving the city. A lot of them were business owners. They started leaving, and it took place over, I think, decades. It was probably before I was born or around the time I was born. And what happened was the population dropped to what it is today, roughly 80,000 people. So it lost perhaps 100,000 people, which means there were a lot of empty houses, buildings, commercial buildings, et cetera, in that area, school buildings, etc. There's another YouTube channel called something like Steel City Storm. If you look at them, they go into old rundown buildings and they will record them. They're documenting the history of Gary on the bad side, let's say. But here's where it gets interesting. When I bought those first houses from the Olson Group, I also contacted friends of mine. There's another YouTube channel, Millennial Mike. I talked to Millennial Mike. He's now a friend of mine. And basically told him what was going on, and he subsequently bought his first rental in Gary, Indiana. I talked to helicopter pilot Caleb. He bought rentals in Gary, Indiana. We then formed up what we call a mastermind group, and there's a dozen or so people in our group. And I believe everyone or close to everyone, including my oldest son, including my buddy who traveled to Gary, and others, all have bought homes in the Gary area. Leading that to today, and I don't have this exact number, we have 50, 60, 70 collectively single-family homes in Gary, Indiana. Our homes have either all been renovated or rehabbed or will be renovated and rehabbed. We have taken those homes, some of them to our knowledge were, and I know this for a fact, were rundown, empty houses that have been completely flipped over, improved, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my group, and I'm just a small part of it, we, like I said, dozens of homes are now in good shape. Rents in Gary, some of these homes when I bought them, I branched out from the turnkey operator and I bought homes from other investors that have been there for decades. The houses were run down. I am in process of renovating homes that I have bought that when a tenant leaves, we rehab a property, paint it, clean it up, $2,000, $3,000. Some of my renovations are running me $11,000, $10,000, $9,000 because they need a lot of work. But we are putting luxury vinyl planks down. We're putting new stuff in there. We're not going overboard, but we're taking old rundown houses, turning them into quality houses. Rents have increased. I'll give you some examples. I had rents of some of these houses when I first got them, $600, $650, $700, $750, $800 in that range there. Rents are now, as we rehab these houses, are going up to $1,000, $1,100, $1,150, $1,200, $1,250. It all depends on the neighborhood and everything. But as we continue to improve this city, rents will get strong. They will, if there are $600 down a house and someone buys that house and they clean it up, fix it up, and say it's a bad block. Maybe you buy a house on that block. Maybe I buy a house on that block. Maybe everyone in my group buys a house on that block. And we flip each house. We don't flip it and sell it. We flip it and we hold it. Buy and hold long-term rentals. We flip it. And now we have changed that block. Okay? Now, it's a big city. Geographically, it's a big city. Some good things that have happened in Gary, Indiana in the past couple of years are Amazon came in. They built a distribution center. It's a large distribution center. They employ a lot of people. Hard Rock Casino came in. They got a deal on some property downtown. Got it cheap. I think they got exempt from property taxes perhaps. And they built this really nice Hard Rock Casino. It has a big hotel there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What else? I think FedEx is there. They got a distribution center. But as these companies come in, that's creating jobs. That's bringing some people in. The city of Chicago has some issues at times. Some folks who may be paying high rent for an apartment in Chicago now are renting a single-family home with a front yard and a backyard for a cheaper price than they were paying for some little apartment. And the commute from Gary to Chicago, depends on where you're going and where you're living at in Gary, 40, 45, 50 minutes, somewhere in that range. All depends on where exactly you live at and where you're going. Okay? So for investors out there, for people out there who live in that area, be optimistic. We can help that city. Myself and my group, what I dare say we have tried to do is we are trying to adopt this city in a way. It has a long history, both good and very bad. Okay, crime was really bad. Murder rate was bad there. We are trying one house at a time to improve this city. We can't do it by ourselves. Okay, we can't do it by ourselves. We need more investors out there to join in. We need more good people out there. And we're not the only one. Tom Olson has told me, I could have this number wrong, but I think he's flipped something like 2,000 houses in Gary, going back a period of years. There are other investors doing the same thing, but there's a lot of old rundown houses there. Some of them just need to be torn down. Some of them need to be rebuilt. What really needs, and I would love to do this, there's land in Gary. I would love to get a piece of land and build a neighborhood of new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses. I can't afford to do it all. I would love to be a part of it. Collectively, we can all make the northwest corner of Indiana a better place. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this first video up. I'm going to make some more videos talking about Gary. I will talk perhaps more on individual homes that I bought and what we've done to them. I'm not good at adding pictures and stuff in my videos, so I'll describe to you what we've done. Okay, and there are others. Millennial Mike may do some videos. Helicopter Pilot Caleb may appear and do some videos with me. And maybe others in my group will talk about Gary, Indiana. But don't be disheartened. Don't look at these other videos on the most miserable city in America and think, oh, I want to stay out of there. Be a part of a positive movement. Let's make this world a better place. Let's make this country a better place. Let's start in one small city, less than 100 people that used to be pushing 200,000 people, and let's one house at a time. Let's make that a better city, a better neighborhood, a bedroom community of Chicago, the northwest corner of Indiana. Let's bring the area up. There's so much negativity in the world. Let's do a positive thing. Let's improve Gary. We're working on it. We've only done a small amount. There's a lot of work to be done. All right, and one last note. The great deals in Gary, the window may be closing because rents are going up, prices are going up. You may not get the great deals that some of us in my group have gotten. There's still some great deals out there, but they're fewer and farther between. So don't be dismayed. When I say great deals, I'm talking about maybe a house that was $25,000 that was completely renovated. Okay? Those deals like that may be kind of in the past. But you can still find good, solid homes in the $60, $70, $80, $90, $100,000 price range that a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of work, use your imagination. Okay? All right. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you will agree with me. Feel free to comment. And if you see neighborhoods that are on the bad side of Gary and you think we need to work at improving them, put them in the comments. If you see good houses, good neighborhoods in the city that you think are up and coming, put them in the comments. All of us together, we can't work alone. Okay, we got to work together. All right, good enough? Thank you for watching. Thank you again, Michael Zuber. Thank you, Millennial Mike. Thank you, Helicopter Pilot Caleb. Thank you, everyone in my group who has bought houses in Gary, Indiana. Mazske is signing out.